Right, let's get started. So we have got Sarah. Sarah's going to join us, but she will join us in a few moments, but we'll get started. So hi, Coral and Katie. Thank you for joining us today. So for everyone that can hear us, this session now, we're going to start to look at some of the pathways into that future career. So hopefully you've been inspired by some of the talks you've seen this morning. And you might be inspired in thinking about some of the jobs that they've talked about and things that you'd want to do. And I know I saw a couple of questions earlier about how would you get into project management, things like that. So this is where we're going to start to talk about. Here's Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Hi. Sorry about that.
That's all right. I was in the wrong place too. So this talk is going to start to look at some of the pathways into those future digital careers. So we've got some experts here that are going to answer a couple of questions. But as always, if you do have a question for the panel related to pathways and what route to take once you leave school, please pop it in the chat box for the session chat box, and we'll make sure those get answered. So I'll quickly start. Could you briefly tell us about your job and your pathway, each of you, kind of your history, what you've done? Katie, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Katie Campbell. I work at University Academy 92, which is a brand new higher education institution based in Trafford that's created with the class of 92 and also Lancaster University. And then we work with industries like Microsoft, TalkTalk, KPMG, and other smaller organisations as well. So my pathway into being a student recruitment officer, I did a business and management degree at a local university close to my home. And then I was offered an internship at that university because I just love to speak to students about their career pathways, and I'm just really talkative person. So that was kind of how I got into my pathway. And regarding kind of digital, I use digital in my day-to-day kind of career as well.
Amazing. What about you, Coral?
Right. Well, I've had a funny route really into digital. It all sounds very different, but it kind of makes sense in a way. It makes sense to me. So I'm now in the apprenticeships department of Manchester Metropolitan University, MMU, you might know it as. And I work particularly on digital and creative type programs. So we have a new School of Digital Arts that opens next year, and I'm developing some programs that'll be out of there. My job in there, well, basically where I started, I left school at 18 and I studied part-time for my degrees while I was working, and that was through government. And what I was doing was working in what's called economic development. So say with Manchester, it would be like working for the city council and trying to think what makes the economy thrive. So back then, because I'm so old, it was all about buildings and shops and all of this sort of stuff. Really now it's about digital economy. And so as I went through that career, it became more about, instead of places like physical places, streets and towns, more about digital communities. And I've worked in digital businesses as well, in terms of like social media, the communities that you get around social media, but also in terms of products and user experience. And we'll maybe come on to that. And I know Autotrader have got a session later about that. So what I now do is I work with businesses to find out what they need from their training and from their staff, and I help the university provide programs that will deliver that, and then help work with them to recruit apprentices onto those programs. And that's another route for you into careers, but that's where my career ended up.
Amazing. I really like that shift over the years of how things are changing, and it just shows kind of the students, things change so majorly over the years that what we're talking about now will still continue to progress. Thank you for that. So Sarah, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, can do. Hi everyone. So I'm Sarah. I work for Autotrader, and my role at the moment that is Future Talent Manager, which basically means I look after all the programs, kind of for entry level roles into the organisation, from kind of your apprenticeships to degree apprenticeships, graduate roles, returners, reskillers, retrainers, interns, work experience, all the fun stuff basically I get involved with. My pathway was a little bit random. I had a few bends and turns in the road. So I made the decision straight from school that I was going to go into an apprenticeship. I think the big driver for me was all around kind of having the opportunity to earn some of my own money. I didn't really know what I wanted to do at that point. All I knew is that I wanted to work in an office, mainly because it was dry and someone had told me there was free stationery. So that was what I was going in there for. And yeah, after a couple of roles, I found myself in a tech business and I absolutely loved it. The speed and just the pace of everything that was going on. Even though at that time I was more in a support role, it was very much seeing everything that was going on, and the change all the time really excited me. And I was very fortunate to start to get involved with bits of things around kind of HR and marketing, and thought this is absolutely fantastic. So after a lot of time at night school and catching up on all that education I missed through college and university, worked my way into kind of a resourcing partner, and now this future talent role. So a little bit twisty turny, and that's how I ended up where I am.
Thanks, Sarah. So hopefully you can all see that there's very different routes that people have taken into their careers. It doesn't always mean that it's a straight route forward. So I'll stick with you for the moment, Sarah. What traits, so you're responsible for bringing new talent into the business. Yeah. What are the traits that you look for at Auto Trader? So on what is that you really value in young people?
So at Auto Trader, we have 6 values that we look for in all our applications that come through. But in particular, I think with entry roles, the one that stands out is about being curious. So asking great questions, wanting to know why. And I think that in particular in digital and tech roles is so important. I touched on a little bit in my background that loving that change and that pace, and things constantly change. Half the roles that I recruit for and the business recruits for didn't exist a few years back. So having that natural curiosity is key. Being passionate about wanting to find new things and learn and try things, and having that ability to, not worry too much if something goes wrong, and you can learn from it. So when we're running any of our assessment centres or anything, we try to give tasks that can really showcase people those skills. So yeah, that's in particular what we look for.
Thank you. And Katie, what about you? What's your organisation kind of value for people looking to get into education? What are those traits that you try and look for or kind of develop in students?
Yeah, so the type of students that tend to come to UA92 are definitely students that aren't afraid to get stuck in. There are a lot of kind of extracurricular activities that our students get involved in. So a lot of them have worked at events with organisations like KPMG and Microsoft, and we want to see those students that are really passionate about their degree and passionate about their personal development as well. But we give them the tools to kind of work on their personal development, especially with digital literacy. We do things on resilience, kind of being a good lead and all-round leader as well. So they have a target talent curriculum where they kind of have that focus upon learning those personal development skills. And they're actually skills that employers have said, oh, these graduates might not have the digital literacy skills or the communication or that resilience that's needed to be a good graduate in a company, in a big organisation. And so UA92 created this list of skills that we wanted our students to embody in their day-to-day and also in their working career later on once they graduate. So the type of student that we really want to come to UA92 are just really passionate and aren't afraid to get stuck in. And I always say to students that I speak to, a smile goes a really long way, and just a really nice, friendly smile just makes everyone do like different things for you. So I think passion and just really friendly nature, I think is something that you should always try and embody.
Yeah, that's really important, isn't it? I really love what you guys do around that kind of personal development element of it as well. So it's not just learning that key skill, it's everything else that you need within a business. Yeah. What about you, Coral? Because obviously coming from an education background as well, is it kind of similar for you?
Yeah, it is. And, as I said in the chat, yeah, definitely curious. And I think, as we've all talked about the way digital's changing and twisty turny paths, you've got to be interested, you've got to be curious, you're looking for the next thing and continually learning. But with apprenticeships, we don't recruit. So you've got kind of, you've got sort of qualifications, or you've got to sort of get on to the university course, but you're actually hired by the employers we work with, whether that's the BBC or Adidas or, Very Good, people like that. They're actually employing the apprentices rather than us. So it's all of they've all got different cultures, and looking how you fit. I think everything that Katie and Sarah have said is exactly right. But I think with apprenticeships, what you also really need is people who, you know, it's not easy. You're working and you're studying for a degree as well, or, you know, a degree level apprenticeship as well. So it's not easy. You've got to really, you get out what you put in. So you've got to be a bit hard working, but the results people get, so far, 96% of our people have either got a first or a 2-1 in their degree apprenticeship, because you're learning and you immediately, what you're applying, you're immediately doing something with it. You're applying it and you're embedding it. It's not just textbook learning, you're doing stuff as well. So as long as you're that sort of person and you try hard, you get back what you put in and you do really well.
Yeah, and it's a very different experience to learning at school, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what these people might be used to and what learning looks like, it's very different and very hands-on, and kind of you're out there in the real world straight away, which is really good. So if we can all think back to being 16, which is quite a long time for me, I'm not going to lie, what advice would you kind of tell your 16-year-old self about sort of education and employability? Katie, do you want to start?
Yeah, so when I was 16, I think I definitely followed in my friends' footsteps rather than kind of picked my own choice and went down my career path. I had really great friends, and they were the type of people that had really aimed high. So it was quite good for me, but I didn't own my own decision, and I didn't make enough research and create a pathway that I wanted to follow myself. So that's something that I would definitely say to myself if I was 16 again, is just own your own decision, but also don't be afraid to reach out to people. So I'm always so happy when students email me myself and say, can you help me with this? Or how did you get into your job role? Or which career path should I take for this? Or just reach out to people on LinkedIn or any friends and families and just ask them, what's this job like? Or what do you think I'm really good at? What do you think this job would work out like when I'm older? And just not to be afraid of that, of asking people for their advice, really.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think you find people do want to give back, people do want to help, and especially in the kind of digital and tech industry, there's a huge community out there, and they do want to help and support. So, yeah, I totally agree. Kind of, it's a really good point. Reach out and ask for that kind of help and support. What about you, Sarah? What would you tell your 16-year-old self?
I think I'd tell myself to take a little bit of pressure off. I think you imagine, or I certainly did, I remember thinking at 16, like I had to make this big decision about what I wanted to do. And I think I'd tell myself to take a bit of that pressure away. You're in work an awful long time from 16 or whatever it is that you start work if you stay in education longer. So take that pressure off. You know, a career now is not necessarily for life. Things will change and evolve. Find things that you enjoy. As Katie said, speak to people, loads of people, as many people as you can, attend events like this, find out, you know, about all loads of different opportunities. And if you're not sure what you want to do yet, that's fine. Carry on an education, just keep learning, and you'll find that thing that you absolutely love. And if you find a job you love, it's not really work, so you can just enjoy it for a lot longer.
Yeah.
No, I'd agree. What about you, Coral? What would you say?
I'd agree with everything. I think, yes, absolutely. Don't feel the pressure about thinking, oh, this is my career and this is what I'm going to be doing, because things do change and some careers don't exist yet. But I think the thing that I would add to what's been said already is to really grab opportunities with both hands as well. That if you see an opportunity to get involved in something, have a go. Try hard at it, because even if you have a go, somebody might see you doing really well and they might have a really good opportunity over there, and they might say, oh, we like you and we like the way you do that, come and get involved in this. And that's where I've gone, like Sarah said, twisty turny thing, you know, I've gone all over just because I've done something and that's been interesting, and that's led me on to the next person or the next job or the next connection, and I've gone all around and I've loved every bit of it. And as Sarah says, if you enjoy what you're doing, it's not really work. You would do it for fun, and work can be like that, which is incredible, and they pay you.
Yeah, I think, I agree with you all that the career path isn't the straight one that it once was, and I think that point you made about some roles don't even exist yet. So new roles in the digital and tech industry are coming up weekly. It sounds incredible, but that is true, that there's new roles created, there's new technology coming out. So start somewhere and you'll kind of navigate your way through that path, I think. I think that's really, really good advice for everyone. So if we're talking to everyone watching today, what's the main piece of advice you give them? So if they're applying, if they're making an application, or if they're in a job interview, or if they're coming to college or uni, what advice would you give them to help them stand out? Coral, do you want to start?
I think find a thing that you love, and that isn't necessarily always going to be related to your job or your career. You know, it could be, I don't know, horse riding or photography or anything like that, but find something that you're passionate about and that you can talk to somebody about. You can have a conversation with them about in an interview, in the one that's not necessarily about a job, but you've got something that shows a passion and an interest, and you can write about it, talk about it, and it's something that gives you a subject to communicate on, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really key, that it's great to go to an interview or be passionate about the job that you're doing, but have passions outside of that and show people, bring that personality through, definitely. What would you say, Katie?
I'd definitely say don't be afraid to pat yourself on the back, and don't be embarrassed by saying you're really good at something. So I speak with year 13s kind of quite a lot at the moment, because we're working on their personal statement for university. And a lot of the time they're very shy at saying that they're good at something, but throughout your life, you're going to get these jobs and to get these opportunities, you're going to have to say to those people that are offering you them, look how well I can do at doing this and doing this. And so I would just say, don't be afraid to show off. This is the time where you can show off and it's not embarrassing. So just don't be afraid to pat yourself on the back.
Yeah, that's really good piece of advice. Sarah, what would you say?
I'd definitely back up everything that Coral and Katie have just said. I think that is such a challenge at any stage in your career, to be that confident person. But I think just remember, the person that you're talking about is you, and you know yourself better than anyone else. So feel confident about that. I would say, you know, what Coral said is absolutely spot on. You know, talk about things that you've got that passion about. But I think it's difficult sometimes to see that as experience, and all those interests and passions and things are experience. And there's so many fantastic transferable skills that you can bring into work. So just using that example again, you know, if you've got a horse that you care for, or a pet, or you know, you support around the house with family, or you know, you've volunteered for something, it's all massively transferable skills. So take some time to think about that. When an employer is asking about experience, they don't necessarily mean paid employment. It could have even been a project you've done at school. So take some time to think about those, think about your involvement and what you brought to it. It's also a great kind of technique to think about the things you enjoy. So if there's things that you remember and you get excited about when you think about it, those typically are the things that you're going to enjoy in work. So when you're thinking about those experiences, if you get excited, write it down, and then think about how you can find a role that maybe accompanies some of that. The other thing I'd say is research. So whether or not you're applying for an academic application or an employment application, do your research. A little bit of the stuff we touched on before about reaching out to contacts and things. You know, don't be afraid to do that. Find out as much information as you can, because when you're talking about why, it's fantastic if you've got that research. Employers really love that when they know that you want to work for their organisation. And it's important that you've done that research too, to make sure that you actually do. You want to be somewhere that you're going to enjoy, and you want to be somewhere that aligns to your own beliefs and interests. So do that research, make sure it's the right place for you, and then you'll be able to talk about it confidently when you're in that interview setting or application form. Yeah,
absolutely. So if all the people that are watching today, they've obviously heard different workshops, they've heard about different kind of jobs that people do. If they're considering a future in digital and technology, what would you recommend their next step is? Coral, do you want to start?
Gosh, is I guess when you're sort of thinking, be thinking about if you've chosen, you don't have to have chosen those digital subjects, but it make everything easier if you have, and that could be in the arts, that could be computing, but it could be that you're getting involved with computers in your own time. There's lots of sort of free stuff, free, not necessarily free learning courses, but you can create on social platforms and things like that. So just be kind of creating stuff and sort of be building up a bank of materials, I think, and just be thinking about maybe there's going to be a session after this about user experience. So I think as you're using Snapchat, as you're using whatever it is that you use, if you want to start going in that direction, be thinking about what it's like for you using things and, why is this like this? How could I do this better? Does this work for me? Who else is using this? And look at the people who influence you that you're inspired by, and what are they doing? What are they talking about? Read what other people are saying.
Absolutely. What would you suggest, Katie?
I definitely say reach out to people and ask them how they got in that job role, or how they got in the technological or digital sector. I always go, I'm still kind of working out what I want to do in my life. I think I'll never, ever find out the perfect kind of place for me, because I like to do a little bit of everything. So at the moment, I'm really interested in a particular job role, and I've reached out to people on LinkedIn who have that job role, and I've said, how have you done this? Like, did you do an extra qualification? Did you do an internship? Did you do some unpaid volunteer work? And that's what I've done. So what I would say is just reach out to people and don't be embarrassed to ask the questions that you want to know.
Absolutely. And Sarah, what would your advice be?
I'd say a fantastic starting point is to have a look at some of the Digital Her role model profiles. I think one of the best things to find out about how to get into things is to see what other people have done. They've tried it and learned from their mistakes and learn from their winnings. So definitely take some time to have a look at the profiles. I think that'd be a great start. And that may give you some people maybe to reach out to, especially if you see something that's interesting on there. And I'm sure, we can, Manchester Digital and different tools and things can help you get in touch. Just to echo again what Coral said, there's so many resources out there that you can get involved with, that you can do on top of things, and those are the things that you get to have great conversations about. So there's loads of different free resources online. There's lots of different groups, things like code clubs, having a play around with Scratch if you've not already done that already, and just try things and test things, because you won't know if you enjoy something unless you try it. So give things a go, use all the resources out there, speak to your teachers, careers advisors. They will have access to some fantastic things. But I just think it's fantastic that you're here today, because this is the first step in many cases to find out. So take notes, write down people's names, ask questions, get involved. And then take a little bit of time, this evening or this week, just reflect on what you've taken away and set yourself a commitment to go and do what you want to do. So if you've heard something and you're interested in it, give yourself some time to go and find out about it.
Can I chip in again? Because Sarah just reminded me of something, is that we see them, and Manchester Digital and Digital Her see them as well. All these different competitions, and employers like Autotrader get involved with them. So I'm not sure it's because of the pandemic, it's not running this year, but there's been things like the Hack Manchester competitions, GCHQ, all different employers have run different events that you can get together as teams and make projects. And getting those, because they're amazing things to turn up and said, I created this thing, I worked with other people, here's a thing, look at what I did. And they're actually quite good fun as well, and you're spending time with people and you've got a product. And that's something that for years, when you're even in your early 20s at university, that will still be on your CV that you took part in that competition.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got 1 minute left. We have got a few questions, so I'm probably not going to get through them all, so I do apologise, but we will make sure they get answered. Someone's right here. How do you know, because we talked about reaching out to people, how do you know where to reach out to so you can have different opportunities?
I'd say look at their job title and look at the industry that they work in. So I don't know if you guys have used LinkedIn before. You can create a LinkedIn profile if you want to have a look there. But like Sarah said, there's also the Digital Her role models as well, which is a really good starting point. And I think it's a lot more accessible to you guys. So I would focus on those. and just ask them the questions. If they're not the right person, just think, oh, I'll try someone else and go on. You're never going to get it right the first time. Don't know if anyone else has anything to put in on that.
I would just add, have a look at, because we have got the Digital Hire role models, but have a look at the Digital Hire Instagram account as well, because you'll see some of the role model profiles on there. You'll see their Instagram handles, and you can kind of make contact with people or look at what they're talking about. A lot of them will promote whether they've got kind of professional blogs and things like that. So it's starting to, even if you're not making contact and speaking to them, have a look at what people are talking about and what they're interested in, and that will give you a bit of a feel for what's out there. So that is unfortunately all we've got time for, because we did start a few minutes late, so apologies for that. Like I said, we have recorded the session, so we will share this out to you all, and all the questions that are in the chat, we'll make sure we get those answered, and we'll share those with your teachers as well, so they can relay that back to you. But that's it for us. So if you want to head back to, I think it's back to the main stage now, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Enjoy the rest of the day.